Leadership is the demonstration of psychological and emotional courage, which we all have access to if we're willing to dig deep enough into the toolbox of answers when it comes to life. Because, my friends, here's the secret about leadership. We're all born with the authentic traits to be authentic and phenomenal leaders. We all have it within our capacity to change the trajectory of the world and place it on a forward-thinking and objective path towards prosperity. Stephen Morris has one obsession in his life, both personally and professionally, and that, my friends, is to teach others that they have the innate capability of being great leaders. They have to level up their level of confidence and belief in the possible in order to get that done. But Morris has unique experience and really knows what he's talking about. For most of his adult life, he spent serving his country in the U.S. Army. But when he transitioned to civilian life, he found a new purpose and reason to serve. He found those that lived in civilian life and had positions of leadership weren't stepping up to the proverbial plate to include every diverse voice that they could. As a result, it inspired Morris to create renowned leadership, where they focus on developing every aspect of a person so that they can come to life as their authentic self and as a great leader. Now, Morris says that you have to have a certain level of personal investment in this process in order for you to see optimum results. Personally, I had the fortunate privilege of sitting down with Morris over the weekend for him to tell us about the power of reflection and how it relates to leadership, how his military training has helped hundreds of thousands of people from near and far become the best leader that they can. Morris also shares his thoughts on the importance of maximizing every moment of life and living life with no regrets. This is a conversation that you will not be sorry that you tuned into, because it's full of inspiration, humor, authenticity, and so much more, as it comes and relates to lessons in life. So without further delay, I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. To welcome you to the program, my friend, and I'm super delighted to engage in conversation with you this weekend all about leadership. It's great to see you, and thank you, my friend, for hanging out with me this weekend. It's most appreciated.
The pleasure's all mine, Kevin. Truly an honor. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely, my friend. And tell me, Stephen, I wanted to start our conversation by asking you how you define elite leadership and what that means to you.
So there are a lot of different definitions of leadership. It depends on who you ask. But my
Well, I'm
personal
asking you, yeah. So I want to.
my personal definition of leadership is, first of all, everyone is a leader. I'm not saying everyone is a good leader, but everyone at their very core is a leader. So when people say, "Oh, I don't want the responsibility of being a leadership," well, guess what? Too bad. You're a leader. And the reason I say that is because everyone has influence on everybody else. And at the core of my definition of what leadership is, it's just that, it's influence. So, first and foremost, in order to be a leader, you have to lead yourself. Before, you can't lead anyone until you can effectively lead yourself. So that's the first roadblock people have to get over, is learning to lead themselves efficiently and effectively. But once you get past that, if you're a stay-at-home mom, then you're leading your family, you're leading your children. If you are just an hourly employee at McDonald's, there is somebody there that's newer than you, that looks up to you to show them the ropes or whatever. That makes you a leader. So a leader is all about influence. That is the that is my basic definition of a leadership, is a person that influences another person, whether it's in a positive way or a negative way. But ultimately, you're leading them, you're influencing them.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Stephen, it's funny that you bring up that everyone's a leader because, it's my firm belief, my friend, that when we look at life, the only expectations we have to meet are our own. Because, Stephen, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So, at the age of 9, my friend, I was told by a doctor that I wouldn't be able to walk without assistance for the duration of my life because I was born with a cerebral palsy. But I always say that the answer to the test of adversity is how you respond when other obstacles are placed in front of you, my friend. So I'm curious, when we look at overcoming an obstacle or adversity and how it's related to promoting inclusion, I'm wondering your thoughts on how those things are all interconnected.
So, first of all, this is how I make everyone mad. All right. So, I reject the movement of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. For not because I'm against it, but because, one, I don't like being told what to do, and two, it when it comes for me to me hiring somebody, it is about, can you help me win? So, obviously, you're an African American, Kevin. So you come to me with a job application, and it's about, can you sell me that you can make me win, make my company win, make my team win? Or can these other applicants, I don't care whether you're blue, black, brown, purple, white, pink, yellow, it doesn't matter to me. All that matters is what you bring to my team. Now, for everyone else, if they do not have that mindset, that's fine. Don't have that mindset. Be racist. Be whatever you want to be, because ultimately that's going to cause you to fail, because you're not bringing in the best candidates, the best team members onto your team. So go fail, please. That makes less competition for me. I don't care. But for me, it's about, do you want to win? Right? You look at the Kansas City Chiefs? Do you think the Kansas City Chiefs care what race their team is? No, they don't care. They just want to win a Super Bowl, right? Do the Nuggets care? No, they just want to win a championship, and that's what it's all about for me. It's who's going to help me win. And so if you're stuck in a mindset that stops you from looking at a candidate and you see the color of their skin or their religion or where they come from or their lack of education or their over education, whatever the case may be, if that's how you look at that candidate, then you need to do some serious self-reflecting on yourself, because ultimately the question you need to ask yourself is, do I want to win? It's And so, like I said, I don't reject that movement because it's wrong. I reject it because it's common sense. I don't need someone like, Man, it's just common sense. It's so frustrating to me. It's, do you want to win? When I was in Iraq and Afghanistan, I didn't care. All I cared about, did you have my back? Are you gonna protect me when the bullets start flying? And so that's my take on it. Is I just want people to help me win. I want people to push me. I want people to be there with me when it comes. Whenever we're at 0 dark 30 and things are getting real and the bullets are flying, and that's all that matters. Is, do you got my six? Are you going to help me cross that finish line and winner?
Yeah, it's all about creating a competitive advantage, isn't it?
Absolutely. And if, like I said, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but if you're the person that's going to help me do that, I don't care. I mean, good. Like, I don't mean to say that dismissively. Like, I'll support you. Like, you want to, if you're a Muslim and you need to take time for your prayer break or whatever it is, yeah, I'll support that. Whatever. I don't care. Just help me win. That's all I want. Just help me win.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what do you think it means to lead with integrity and level up as a leader?
So leading with integrity goes back to my overall, I guess you could call it a mantra when it comes to leadership, and that is to be a servant leader. Right? Being a servant leader means that my team comes first, no matter what. If it's, if money gets tight in business, which, let's be honest, we're entrepreneurs. Sometimes money is going to get tight. So my team gets paid before I do. My team eats before I do. My team has the best of everything before I do. That's servant leadership. And that's what leading with integrity means. That means that I'm taking you, Kevin, as my team member, and I'm looking at you. I'm looking at your religion. I'm looking at your family situation, your medical situation. I'm looking at your entire life, and I'm thinking, how can I use my company and my influence to better you? Because if I better you, if my influence is helping you grow as a person, then you're going to help me. Like we talked about earlier with DEI, you're going to help me win. And if I win, that means you win too. Ultimately, that's what leading with integrity means. That means you're putting yourself forward, leading. I can't talk today, man. Leading as a servant leader, and you're putting everyone else's needs before your own. And what that's going to do is create what that's going to do is create an environment in the workplace where everyone's happy to go to work. No one hates Mondays, and no one's excited about Fridays because they love to be with you. They love to be around you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's all about sort of your perspective in life and how you look at life for sure. And I know that it's important to you to also develop authentic leaders. One of the mantras that I have in life, Stephen, is that I have limited amount of time for excuses and limiting your belief system. So tell me about what do you think it means to be an authentic leader and the importance of pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone to really push the expectations of yourself from a personal perspective. What does that mean to you?
Well, first of all, that's a loaded question because I can talk about this for the next hour and a half. I don't know how long this podcast runs, but so
I got all the time in the world, my friend. Go right ahead. I'll go pop some popcorn and come back. No, I'm kidding. Go right ahead.
So to answer the first part of your question, what it means to be an authentic leader. Being an authentic leader means being yourself, right? People's BS meters work very good, and I think we forget that a lot of times. Like, people can tell when we're not being genuine. You got to be authentic. So if you're the type of person that I'll give a good example. One of my friends told me a story of their leader, and the company was doing this family picnic outing type thing where everyone brought their families and they had food and games and fun. and one of the leaders was complaining about having to meet the spouses and the children, right? So, but that leader at the same time, like you can't outwardly show that because that would make you, you know, a bad person or whatever. So that person was faking smiles and faking handshakes and all of that. But the image that that left was such a bad negative image of that person overall, because people can tell people's BS meters work very effectively. If you're that type of leader, then you need, one, you know, be yourself, of course, but also you need to improve yourself. Like, you can't have that attitude. And so you gotta find where, you know, where you need to improve and how you're going to improve it. And that's part of what being authentic means, is when you're authentically yourself when it comes to your leadership, you're going to quickly identify your faults. And that's great, because that allows you to adjust your fire and learn the skills you need to learn, or adjust the personality traits that you have. I understand that some people just aren't, they just don't like people. That's okay. It's okay to be you, but you have to learn how to manage that and how to control it in a productive fashion, if you will.
Yeah.
To answer the second part of your question, when it comes to overcoming roadblocks, like, you know, welcome to life. Um, you know, you obviously are very familiar with roadblocks, since I think you said you were 9 when you got your diagnosis. Like, you know, that was one of your biggest roadblocks. You had to learn to overcome it, right? And you've done a great job. Congratulations. One of my I got shot 3 times when I was in Afghanistan. Huge roadblock for me. You know, it almost killed me. It's about not quitting. It's about, you know, integrity, right? Are you going to quit, or are you going to keep going? I don't have a quit bone in my body. Like, I'll say a million times, like, screw this, I quit. I'm done. I'm tired of running my own business. This sucks. I quit. And then 10 minutes later, I'm back in my office behind my computer, figuring out whatever problem it is that I have. When it comes, especially for leaders, when it comes to overcoming obstacles, get the idea that you can quit out of your head, because you can't. People count on you. People depend on you. Just one step forward, and never, ever freaking quit.
Yeah, I have to tell you, life is about, you know, the way you look at it, because I always tell people, life isn't about stacking a deck of cards together, and we all have a responsibility, first of all, to ourselves, to stack our deck in the direction that we hope to go in life. So I'm curious to ask you about maximizing impact in life, because I think there's a real strength in sort of the diversity in life and everything that we bring to the table. And I think that your mission through your company of sort of developing the whole person and letting them lead to whatever their desires want them to lead to is a noble and noteworthy mission. So I want to thank you for the work that you do, but I want to also ask you about developing the whole person as a leader. What goes into that in your perspective?
So that's actually kind of a complicated answer. I guess the best way to give a short answer is, growing up, somehow we get taught that we need to strengthen our weakness. I have bad news for you. You're never going to take a weakness and make it a strength. Like, that's just not doable. I have a very strategic mind, right? Like, just naturally, when I see something, instantly I start strategizing. I am an amazing chess player. And when I was in the army, I loved playing war games and just trying to out strategize everybody. That's just the way my mind works. One of my good friends, Danny, he couldn't strategize to save his life. He couldn't strategize himself out of a wet paper bag. Like he just wasn't good at it. And that was fine. So what we ended up having to do was finding ways not to strengthen his weakness, but to operate from his strengths, right? He had a very good instinct. So we had to optimize that instinct rather than his ability to strategize. So what a lot of times what people do is they think, oh well, I'm not good at getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning like Steven, right? A lot of people aren't. That's okay. That's not your strength. That's mine. But don't try to force yourself to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning because you're just going to hate it. You're not going to be good at it, and you're going to ultimately quit. Rather operate from your strengths. So if if you get up at 10 o'clock in the morning, then optimize that. That's your strength. And this is obviously a kind of a bad example, but you get my point. Mm-hmm. Operate from where you're the strongest rather from trying to bring up your weaknesses. Now, I'm not saying don't work on yourself. Don't try to develop yourself. You always want to keep at it, trying to build those weaknesses up, but don't focus on, I got to be better in this area. And which is my weakness. Focus on, I need to better operate out of my strength. And I really need to focus on that strength and develop that strength. And when we focus on our strengths, one, that gives us momentum. Two, that gives us encouragement because we love to work out of our strengths, right? You're a public speaker. Obviously, you love to public speak. I do too. But could you imagine trying to do public speaking if you didn't love it? If that wasn't your strength, it would be horrible. It would suck. You wouldn't want to do it. So don't operate from your weaknesses. Operate from your strengths. And that's what I mean when I say we develop the whole individual is we identify your strengths. We help you learn how to maximize those and operate out of those. And then we identify your weaknesses and we help you develop ways and systems to strengthen those weaknesses, level them up a little bit so they're not quite as detrimental, not quite as weak, but still you're always operating from where you're the peak, where you're at the pinnacle of your being, and you're operating out of your strengths.
Yeah, absolutely. And Stephen, as you've mentioned a couple of times, you spent most of your adult life serving the U.S. in the Army, so I want to thank you for your service, and also ask you how you think your time in the service has really developed your leadership style and your overall view on life in general as well.
So, short answer is everything. So the Army was so first of all, let me give you a little bit of a backstory then, I guess. I joined the Army on August 17th, 2001, just a few weeks before September 11th. So I was in basic training when September 11th happened. And then ultimately I was in Afghanistan pretty quick from there. And then, Iraq, Afghanistan, back and forth nonstop. So going between the two. And my experience in the Army was I had some great, amazing, exceptional leaders as mentors. I had some not so great, not so amazing leaders as well, but I never saw bad leadership. Every single leader I had in the military, they were spot on. They were fire. And I know that's not everybody's example. So anyone listening to this that was in the Army or in the military and you're like, my leader sucked. I understand every place you go is going to have bad leadership. That just wasn't my experience. I had amazing leaders in the military. So when I got to the civilian world, that's when I first started seeing like toxic leadership. And I was like, whoa, like what's going on here? And so after observing my surroundings, basically trying to identify the problem, I realized that a lot of the problem is in the corporate world. We don't actually train leaders to be leaders. We train managers. And we don't understand the difference between leadership and management. And so, yeah, this person may be a great manager, but that doesn't make them a great leader. So you're that's going to hurt your company. Companies need leaders, not managers. So and being a good manager, that's not going to retain your top talent, right? That's not going to retain your 20% of your top talent. So after I have identified that, that's ultimately what led me to start Renowned. Is I wanted to solve this problem of just a severe lack of leadership, genuine, authentic leadership training. And I have great experience in that because in the military, we start getting leadership training from day one. Because if you stay in the military long enough, you're going to have soldiers put underneath you. So, excuse me, I'm so sorry. Edit that out.
Will do.
I don't really care if you don't, but from day one, we're taught that we start getting taught leadership skills, and it's a very slow process. It takes years and years and years. And what's the average management training program in a corporation? It's like 6 months, maybe. Man, my leadership training lasted probably 4 years per promotion. Think about that, like 4 years per, not quite, but somewhere around there. So each promotion, like I got like at least 2 years of development before I get to the next level. That's insane. And we're trying to do that in 6 months. No, that doesn't work. And so ultimately that's what I decided to start doing is build a company that can take these principles that I learned in the military and apply them in a civilian language that corporations can use to start training their people immediately when they come through the door, rather than waiting until it's all right. So you're going to be the new HR manager. Here's your checklist of everything you got to do. And that does absolutely nothing for that person. And ultimately is going to make your HR department run horribly, or whatever department they're in is going to make it run horribly. People are going to quit. You're going to lose your top talent. It's not worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Stephen, I shared with you before we started recording that I just got back from a speaking engagement, and I had a chance to address a group of HR leaders about the importance of sort of embracing the fact that they have the power to be change makers, or the way they look at sort of their operating procedure, and really diversifying their perspective on how they look at leadership. So for any HR professional that may be watching or listening to this, I'm curious to get your thoughts on what does it mean to really diversify leadership and really sort of use diversity as a strength at work.
Oh, well, diversity is a strength. There's no using it as a strength. It is a strength. And like excuse me, man. Like I was talking about earlier, my buddy Danny, who couldn't, strategically think, but he had great instincts, as opposed to me, who I am very strategic, but my instincts aren't near as good as Danny's were. So when you put the two of us together and we learned to work with each other effectively, I learned to rely on Danny's strength, and Danny learned to rely on my strength. So when it comes to diversifying your leadership team, you need to look at who is good in what areas. And you want to make sure you're at an even keel across the board. You want that super charismatic person that everyone loves. You need that type of leader. You also need that leader that kind of strikes the fear of God into everybody because they're just so tough. You need that leader too, and everything in between. And when these leaders, they all get together and they learn to work with each other and learn how to use, I'm going to learn how to use Kevin's strength to build me up. right? And so anytime I need Kevin's strength, it's like, hey, Kevin, come here. I need this. And then you're going to do the same thing. You're like, hey, Steven, I need kind of a hard ass. Come here. I need you to be tough, which is a strength I have. Yeah, I can do that. And so now as we're leaning on each other and we're working together, working from each other's strengths rather than our weaknesses, your team is going to be unfreaking stoppable, dude. Unstoppable. Because everyone has a skill set in a different area. And when you think about it, I'm sure you know who the Navy SEALs are. That is exactly how the Navy SEALs are built, right? You have a person that is good at this thing. You have a person that's good at this thing. So you got a person that's, a weapons expert. He knows everything there is to know about weapons. You got a person that's a demolition expert. He knows everything there is to know about explosives. You got a person that's good at comms, communication. He knows everything about communication equipment. You got a person that knows everything about medic, about being a doctor, about, fixing you up when you get shot. That's how these teams are built. And, not one single person is, the person that has all the knowledge. Not one single person is the person that has all the weakness. They all have a very specific set of skills, and they all learn to meld those skills together and to operate from each other's strengths.
Yeah, and building on that is a nice segue to my next question. How do you place an importance on listening as a leader? What sort of importance do you place on listening in leadership? Because it's important, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's important. In fact, I can watch you for 10 minutes in an interaction with one of your subordinates, and I can tell you what kind of leader you are, because I'm going to solely base that on who does the most talking in that 10-minute interaction. If it's you as the leader, you're wrong. First of all, your team members need to be heard, right? That's the first level of them, of building respect with them. When they know that you hear them, when you actively listen to them, when you actively engage them in conversation, when they understand, like, oh wow, this dude hears me, Kevin hears me, that is going to build so much trust, because they know they can come to you with a problem, and you're going to hear them, even if it's a problem of their own doing, even if they screwed up. It's like, okay, well, I know I screwed up and I have to go tell my leader about it, but he's going to hear me and he's going to hear my side. He's not just going to jump to a rash decision or conclusion or perspective. He's going to actually take the time to actively listen to me, hear what went wrong, and then help me figure out what to do. I may still get in a little bit of trouble, but I know this person is going to hear me. It brings so much trust to the table when you actively listen. And what does active listening involve? First of all, shutting your mouth. Just shut up. Like, seriously, shut up. Stop talking and listen. Hear what they have to say. Repeat back what they're saying. Paraphrase what they're saying. So what you're telling me is, this happened. Yes, that's what I'm telling you. And then they expand on it. You're like, okay, I see that this happened. Yes. So what you're doing is you're affirming to them that you're hearing exactly what they're saying. So now, like, in their head, they're like, okay, this dude gets me. He hears me. He's listening to me. And I can go on about this for listening is the single most important part of communication that there is. Active listening. I've written a million blogs about it. You gotta go read my blogs.
Well, we'll redirect people after they're done listening to our conversation, for sure. And I'm curious, Stephen, I'm also wondering your thoughts on what do you think leadership can be a learned trait, and how do you think people can grow into the space of leadership?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, the I reject the notion that leaders are born. I cannot think of a single instance in history where you can show me a leader and I can say, yeah, that person was born that way. rather than I can take you through their life and show you how they were developed as a leader. No one is born a leader. Now, some people are born with traits that help them be good leaders, like, charismatic, or they're just automatic. It's in their nature to be an active listener. Some people are born with that quality, but that does, just because you were born charismatic or you were born well spoken, that doesn't make you a good leader. That's just a trait that a lot of good leaders have. A good leader is nurtured and mentored and trained for years and years. And the most important thing any good leader understands is they're never done. They're always learning. They're always advancing. They're always thinking critically. And I don't mean critically as in like negatively, like critically, like, I see this problem, thinking critically about how to solve it. Or this new idea has come to the environment or into the industry. So I think critically about it and I make my own decision about what I think of it. That is the single most important thing any leader can ever do, is you understand that your learning is never done. You need to be learning something new every single day. You need to be pursuing leadership knowledge or just knowledge in general every single freaking day. It's a tiring process, but that's what is required, because it's like, think of it like a sword. Back in the medieval times, the knights always had to sharpen their swords, right? Because after every battle, their swords would be dull. Your leadership is the exact same way. Every time you're using it, it's in battle and it's going to get dicks. I'm sorry, nicks. So what just happened there? I wasn't trying to curse. What happened there is I was combining nicks and dings into one word. I'm so sorry. I'm seriously, edit that part out. I'm so embarrassed. But anyway, you're ever throughout combat, your sword is going to get nicks and dings and dull, right? So the knowledge that you as a leader, that you're constantly seeking, all that's doing is sharpening your proverbial leadership sword and making it sharp again so that you can use it effectively in proverbial combat.
Well, thank you for that authentic sort of a lesson in leadership, my friend. It's most appreciated. But I'm also wanting to ask you about when you think about the concept of hope and prosperity, what keeps your heartbeat of hope sort of beating every day you get up? So how do you define your heartbeat of hope when it comes to progress that we've made in society?
Oh man, that is a great question. I love that question. I'm going to steal that from you. I'll give you credit the first couple of times, and then after that, it's mine.
That's totally right. Okay, just make sure that my commission check clears the bank. Okay.
Right on, right on. But no, that's a great question. Oh, okay. So I'll answer it like this. I've traveled the world over and over again. I've been pretty much every place you can go, with the exception of Australia, because everything in Australia is specifically designed to kill humans. And I've had to, survive war. I don't want to try to survive Australia. Also, I've never been to Antarctica. Those are the only two continents I've never been to. But all through my travels, every place I've gone, I've met nothing but good, loving, warm-hearted people. It doesn't matter if it was in Africa, the Middle East, Europe, Asia, South America, North America. Every place I've traveled, I've met nothing but, and of course, I've met the bad people too. That's one of the pleasures of being in the military. You meet the worst the world has to offer. But I've also met the best. And I can honestly tell you there are more good people in this world than there are bad. The news doesn't report the good, right? Like, because that doesn't sell. Let's be honest, But I'm telling you, we feel like when we watch the news or whatever, hear what's going on in the world, we feel like, oh, it's such a dark place. It's really not. Get out, explore, and go meet people, and you'll see how awesome people are. When I was in Afghanistan, I walked into a village, armed to the teeth, guns literally dripping off of me, bullets everywhere. I walked into a village, and this family saw us, and it was the first time they saw Americans, and they came out with food and coffee, and they fed us, and they welcomed us, and they treated us like we were family. Right? This country we're fighting a war in, and these people are still being so kind to us and so loving. Like, that is my experience of the world, and that's what I always try to remember: is this world is filled with love, filled with amazing people, and people I would die for. And the news lies. It's not as dark and bad as they make it seem. This world is full of beautiful, good people.
Yeah, and Stephen, that's one of the reasons I wanted to start this podcast almost 3 years ago now, is because I wanted to create more bridges of unity. As you said if you turn on the news today, on some token, you would think that the world is falling apart because of what is reported. So, what do you think is the key to sort of healing the societal divisions in life? How do you think we can bring people closer together?
Well, I don't want to get too political here, um, but reject the negative, right? Like, it's simple. Just if everyone, I'm going to use racism for as an example. Just reject if every single person in this world just rejected that narrative, it would die. It wouldn't have. The only reason racism exists today, I'm convinced, is because we provide the fuel for it. I don't have a racist bone in my body. I wasn't raised that way. And so, like, it's easy for me just to say, hey, just who cares? But that attitude, like my attitude, would be infectious, peer pressure, basically. It's again, when I went to Africa, I had this image of Africa being this just war torn, civil war place, because that's what we see on the news. We see all the civil wars happening in Africa. And man, when I got to Africa, they were some of the most amazing people in the world. Like, they were so kind and so cool. And they didn't care that I was white. They didn't give a crap, dude. Like, they just thought I was cool because I sounded funny when I spoke. And they were so warm and welcoming to me. If we just reject the narrative, if we just say no, it doesn't. And I'm not saying ignore that it exists. I'm saying just don't give it fuel. Don't let it exist, and it eventually will die out. It's like a fire. If you take oxygen from a fire, what happens? It'll snuff itself out. It dies. What's the word? Not diversity. The division. Thank you. There's the word. The division in the world is fueled by us continuing to allow it to exist. If we would just reject it and just push it to the side and ignore it, not ignore it, but you know what I mean? Like, just push it to the side, and I'm not giving you ground to stand. I'm not. No, just chew. It eventually dies out. It has because it won't have oxygen to breathe. And so that's what I would say, is just stop letting it exist. Right? All we have to do is just stop. And again, I blame the media. The media is horrible about projecting all these horrible things about humanity. And man, in my experience, yeah, I've met some racist people in my life, but few and far between, very few and far between. And I'm sure, black people have met more than me, but you know, it's just, man, if we just let it, stop letting it survive, it'll die. And I think the media, I blame the media, honestly. I blame the media for pretty much everything bad in life. Like,
Well, you may not like me after this, Stephen, but I went to school to become a journalist, my friend, and one of the reasons I did that was because I believe that that everyone deserves uh, a platform to share their story and an objective view. And one of the things that I think we've done a poor job of as society, whether you work in the media or you don't, is becoming so territorial. We can't have a conversation with people now without feeling as if we have to pick sides. And believe me, I'm not making this
yeah.
a political discussion, but it just seems that we are more territorial than we need to be. And, I used to work for the Ontario Chamber of Commerce on a project that elevated the need to hire more people with disabilities. And one of the slogans that we used was you get more done with collaboration, or collaboration equals progress. So how do you think we can heal divisions in the world today and become less territorial?
Honestly, and again, not trying to be political.
Oh,
Um,
please don't, because that's a minefield, isn't it?
um, stop operating from emotion. Uh, You know, I'm sure I've said something people are going to disagree with. In the last little bit that I said, I'm sure people are going to disagree with me. That's fine. I will give you my email address. We'll schedule a meeting and we will talk. Right? I'm not going to scream at you. I'm not going to browbeat you with my opinions. We're going to talk. And what I'm going to do, and hopefully what you'll try to do, is learn. You're going to try to learn my point of view. I'm going to try to learn your point of view. We're not going to be emotional, and we're going to just try to better ourselves by understanding different points of view. And I think that's the big problem is nowadays people think like, if you don't think like me, you're wrong. And that's not true. Everyone has the inalienable right to their own opinion. And that's fine. Let's learn why they think that way and let's talk to them about it. Let's have an honest conversation. Let's not be fake. And man, like I said, if you take emotion and you just think with logic and compassion and understanding, then man, that conversation is going to be so fruitful and you are going to learn so much about the world, about the person you're talking to, about their culture, about their religion, their race, whatever you're talking about, you're going to learn so much but if you operate out of a world of emotion, you're not going to learn anything because you're going to spend the entire conversation being offended, which means you're going to spend the entire conversation being defensive. And if you're defensive, you ain't doing crap, right? What does defensive mean? It means standing the line, not letting anything through. So literally in the definition of defensive, you're not going to learn anything. So just stop operating from emotion, operate from logic, compassion, understanding, and just try to learn about the person you disagree with. And if we do that, man, the world would be so much better, so much freaking better.
Absolutely. Stephen, there's a sign in my office upstairs that says life is a constant game of learning, because I firmly believe that no matter how smart you are or how many degrees that you have behind your name, my friend. You can always learn from someone else's experience. So I totally agree with you there, and I have to tell you, I want to end on a positive note, my friend. So I will combine my last two questions about leadership this way. Stephen, the end of my biography says the tragedy of life isn't when it ends, it's refusing to live while we still have air to breathe. So tell me, how do you think we should all sort of look at our own lives to level up in life and become the best versions of ourselves that we can? And when you look at your own personal and professional legacy, how do you want that to be defined?
So one, I've already answered this question. And two, I'm going to answer both questions with the same answer. Um, be a servant leader. Constantly, instead of living your life about you and what you can get from other people, live your life from a perspective of how how can I help you? How can I benefit you? And again, and when you do that, that's just going to add fuel to your fire, and that's going to level up your team, and that's going to make you go further, because when you pour and invest into other people, they automatically have the human innate desire to pour and invest into you. And just be a servant leader. Approach every situation as how can I help rather than what can I get. It's funny. I can't remember who said it, but I heard this amazing quote. It says, it's the funny thing about people that chase money. They rarely ever get it. Examine your heart. Are you chasing the right thing? If what you're chasing doesn't better the world, better the people around you, better your family, then you're chasing the wrong thing. Money's going to come. Money comes and goes. Don't chase the money. Don't chase the material. You can't take it with you when you die. Why spend your entire life working for something that ultimately you lose in the end? Like, that's just dumb. Chase the betterment, the improvement, chase the knowledge. You'll learn every day. Help people every day, better someone's life every day. And that's going to leave you with a legacy of someone that genuinely cares, someone that genuinely loves. And when you're dead and people are gathering in the church or the synagogue or the temple or whatever religion or lack thereof that you follow, when people gather to celebrate your life, there are going to be hundreds, if not thousands, of people there, all sharing stories about how you affected their life. And then they're going to share those stories with their kids and their grandkids. And then those stories will get shared on. And eventually, your name might not get attached to that story, but the story still exists. And as long as that story exists, you will never die. And that is my definition of immortality, sir.
Well, I want to thank you for being so open and authentic with me. It's most appreciated. I think having more non-biased or open conversations is the key to progress. So I want to thank you for engaging in conversation with me this morning. And I want to ask, finally, if people want to get connected with you, my friend, what's the best way they can do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me caveat this by saying, look, I'm not trying to offend anybody. I love everybody. I don't care. And if you want to talk to me about it, hey, like I said, email me and we will meet and we'll have a conversation. And you can email me at sjmorris@renownedleadership.com. And I'll make sure you have all my links and stuff so you can throw them in your show notes or whatever. And then, of course, you can go to www.renownedleadership.com. That's my website. And, there's a contact button. There's a book a call with me button. There's all kinds of buttons. Just go explore that, click on buttons. And then, of course, I'm on all the socials, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I'm not on Twitter. I don't like Twitter. But the other socials I'm on. So you can hit me up there just by searching my name.
Absolutely. Well, my friend, I want to wish you the best of luck in continuing to create authentic leaders rather that lead with integrity. I want to thank you for engaging in conversation with me this morning, and I want to thank you for being here. It's most appreciated.
It has been my pleasure, brother, and I hope you have a blessed day.